The Ministry of Secondary Education has developed a distance learning platform for students of secondary education in Cameroon. A series of lessons taught by qualified teachers for secondary school students. Under the stewardship of Professor Pauline Nalovalyonga in collaboration with the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications, CAMTEL, CRTV, and UNESCO. We are introducing distance learning as another teaching and learning method which is different from the traditional classroom setting that you are all used to. In the distance education mode, you are not with the teacher in person, so take your time, relax, listen to the teacher, take down notes and visit the following links for any questions or answers to your questions. Take it in your stride. This is Cameroon's solution to COVID-19 and beyond. Professor Nalovalyonga, Minister of Secondary Education.
Welcome to this new lesson. I am Robert Kenfak, English language teacher, and I'm your English language teacher for Terminal. Today we have our lesson number 3. And the lesson is a grammar lesson. It has a title, WH Questions Related to Job Interviews. We will start by correcting the assignment you had in the last class. And here is the assignment. Imagine that you have to sit at an interview panel as an interviewer. Ask at least 5 questions to the interviewee to get his or her personal information. Remember, before we separated last time, we actually realized that to do this assignment, we needed to ask questions, and we needed to ask at least 5 of them. We needed to react as an interviewer, because the questions were going to be asked to an interviewee, probably a job seeker. Here is what we could have as answers. There are many questions that you could ask, but here are just a few. You could say, what's your first name or your last name? Remember, our questions had to do with personal information. You could ask a question like, are you married or are you single? When and where were you born? And here you could have the place of birth and the date of birth. The first question has to do with the name. The second one, the marital status. Then you could ask a question about the address, and that question could be this one. What's your address? You could also ask a question like, what's your phone number or your telephone number or your cellular phone number or your cell phone number, or what's your email address? And this question number 5 has to do with the address. And lastly, you could ask a question like, what do you do in your free time? Remember, we had free time activities, and for free time activities, we labeled them last time as hobbies. Here you want to get the hobby of your interviewee. Let's talk about the lesson outline for today. We'll start by the lesson outcomes, then followed by the previous knowledge, then the problem statement, the lesson activities, the exercises, and as usual, we're going to end with an assignment. For the learning outcomes, By the end of this session, we should be able to distinguish WH questions from yes or no questions. We should be able to correctly ask and answer possible WH questions for a job interview. So those are the two things that we need to achieve by the end of this lesson. For the previous knowledge, we can already identify job interview participants and state their roles. We can also already ask questions related to personal information. That was our last lesson. And then we can equally differentiate job types. Remember last time we talked about part-time, full-time, seasonal jobs. So let's look at this picture. Let's read this text and let us see which type of job it is. So here you can actually see two people. They're very happy. They have their graduation robes on. And when they graduate, I'm sure they're university graduate. And once people graduate from universities or from terminal, as some of us are, then you start looking for a job. Here we have the boy. He is called King. So King graduated from the University of Ware, that's in the southwest region of our country, and got a job in a company where he only works from April to June every year. Which type of job is it? So we can say King's job is a seasonal job because King only works at a particular moment or period of the year. Next, we have this classmate of King. She's called Bella. She's his friend. You can see she's also very happy. It's graduation day. That's how people are generally. So King's friend Bella got a job at Camtel. She works 8 hours a day from Monday to Friday. Which type of a job is it? It is a full-time job because King's friend, she works not only for 8 hours a day, but also from Monday to Friday. Therefore, she works at least 34 hours a week. Remember that we said a full-time job is that one you work for at least 34 hours. It could be 34, 36, or right up to 40 hours per week. Then we have this one. Actually, you see a man probably in his garden or his farm, and you could see he's got his helmet and he's got boot and he's like watering plants. So he's Bella's brother. So Bella's brother is a farmer, but he teaches farming for 2 hours on 3 weekdays in a private technical school. So what type of job is it for Bella's brother? Actually, for Bella's brother, we can see it's a part-time job. Teaching is a part-time job for Bella's brother because he does not do it for a full day. Moreover, he does not do it every day. His main or permanent job is farming. So this time around, we're going to listen to a job interview. The interviewer, as you know, is going to ask questions, And what we have to do is write down the questions we're going to hear. We may not necessarily write all the questions, but we write as many questions as possible. So let's listen.
Good morning. Pia Marcotti, isn't it?
Yes, good morning.
I'm John Reeves. I manage the sales department here at Roscoe International. You can call me John.
Okay, John.
Have you already been shown around the company?
Yes, I got here at 9 a.m. and Susie gave me a tour of the place.
And what did you think?
It's a lot bigger than I thought it would be.
Yes, a lot of people say that. Now we have over 50 people working for us here. Did you bring your CV?
I sent it by email last week.
Oh, yes, of course. I was reading it only yesterday. Now, where is it? Here it is. Here we are. Pia Marcotti, 26 years old, born in Rome. Okay, let's see. Where did you hear about Roscoe International?
My brother worked for you a couple of years ago and has always spoken well of you.
Luigi Marcotti? Yes, I remember him. How long did he work here for?
I think it was about 10 months. Now he's living in the UK. He's been working for a magazine in London for around a year.
You'll say hi to him for me, won't you?
Okay, sure.
Now, tell me something about your work experience, Pia.
Well, I worked in the offices of my mother's company when I left university.
And what sort of company does your mother run?
It's caterers. She does the catering for weddings, graduations, funerals, that type of thing.
And how long did you work there for?
About a year or so. They put me on the phones, and I was also responsible for all the advertising and our leaflets, business cards, and the website.
So you didn't do any cooking?
No, they kept me a long way from the kitchen.
So what did you do after that?
Well, I traveled for a little while, mostly in Europe and a little in South America.
How long did you go traveling for?
Oh, it wasn't too long. Maybe about 6 months. I had a job that was going to start at the end of the year, so I had about 6 months free, so I thought, why not?
Did you have any problems with the languages where you went?
Not really. I speak Italian and Spanish quite well.
How long have you been studying those languages?
Well, my father is Italian, so I am fluent in Italian. I have studied Spanish for about 7 years, so I can get by pretty well in that too.
Actually, we do have a lot of business with Sicily, so your Italian could be really important.
I would really like the chance to use my Italian for work.
What did you do when you came back from your travels?
Well, as I said before, I already had another job lined up, and that was in a small shoe company just outside town.
Bradley Footwear it's called, isn't it?
Bradford Footwear.
Yes, here it is. It says here you worked in their sales department. How long did you do that for?
I was there for 3 years, and I worked in the sales department for 2 of those 3 years.
Did you enjoy the work?
Well, it was fun at the beginning, but it's not a very large company, and they only have a few customers in the region, so it got pretty repetitive after a while. That's why working for an international company like yourselves would really interest me.
Okay, let's go and get a cup of coffee, and we can continue this conversation afterwards.
So that was the interview. Let's get the questions. So we had this. Good morning, Pierre Marcotti. Isn't it? This is actually what we have been studying since 4e, 3e, that was called dark questions. And have you already been shown around the company? And what did you think? Did you bring your CV? Where did you hear about Roscoe International? How long did he work here? You have won't you, which is another form of a tag question. You'll say hi to him from me. Won't you? Then, and what sort of company does your mother run? So you didn't do any of the cooking? So what did you do after that? How long did you go traveling? Did you have any problems with the languages where you weren't? Oh yes, it's written here on your resume. Isn't it? Isn't it? It's another tag question. How long have you been studying those languages? What did you do when you came back from your travel? Bradley footwear. It's called, isn't it? Another tag question. So, how long did you do that? Did you enjoy the work? Okay, so those were some possible questions. Here we have the problem statement. That's that real life situation we want to solve for this lesson. So Fatumata applied for a job in a company and has been called for an interview. She's preparing for it. However, she does not know the types of questions that could be asked. So she asked her uncle Bello, who is a human resource staff in a company, to help her frame some possible interview questions. So look at some of the questions we had from the interview. Have you already been shown around the company? What did you think? What did you bring your CV? Where did you hear about Resco International? How long did you work here? Which ones of these questions can be answered by yes or no? And which ones cannot, meaning which ones can't be answered by yes or no? As possible answers, which ones can be answered by yes or no? We have you already been shown around the company? You could just say, yes, I have. No, I haven't. Did you bring your CV? You could say, yes, I did. No, I didn't. So these types of questions, which can have as answers yes or no, are called yes or no questions. They usually start with an auxiliary. Do you eat in the morning? Have you seen your friend? Are you a student? Is Anna a teacher? Can I use your pen? May I go out? Those are some of the words that introduce such questions. Which ones cannot be answered the yes or no? We have, what did you think? Where did you hear about Resco International? How long did he work here? These are called WH questions because you can't answer them by just saying yes or no. So our lesson today is a grammar lesson and it is entitled WH questions. These are questions that cannot be answered by yes or no, as we've seen. They usually begin with what, when, what, when, where, who, whom, which, whose, why, how. And you can see that most of these words, apart from how, start with WH. And that's why they are called WH words. WH words, to frame them, we use WH words plus auxiliary plus a subject. For example, we've got where, did, here is the auxiliary. Here, that is, where did you hear about our company? So you have the you, which is the subject. What, WH, is auxiliary. Your, then this, your name, which is the subject, the full your name. What do you want to work? Why do you want to work with us? You have the WH, you have the auxiliary and the subject. That's how it is with the WH questions. When did you graduate from high school? How did you hear about our company? So, how can be followed by the following adjectives. So, for example, you could have how long to express duration. Example, how long have you been working? Have you been working? You could have how plus good to express ability or skills. For example, you have how good are you in project management? And then we could have how plus far to express the distance. For example, how far are you from this company? So let's look at part of a CV, then ask and answer some WH questions. So this is a CV. It's a CV for Lily Evans. And here we have information about her. Can we look at the information and ask some WH questions? Yes, you can see the information here. Let's look at it well. And then we are able to ask some WH questions about Lily Evans. Let's get to our possible answers. What is her last name? And her last name is Evans. What does she do? And the answer is, she is a certified medical assistant. Then the other question is, how long has she been working? And then on the form we could see that she's been working for 7 years. So let's now look at part of another CV and then ask and answer some WH questions. Actually, here you can see the title, Experience. And then here you have something like the year the person started work. And here you've got the places where, or companies where the person has worked with the various tasks the person was in charge of. So let's look at it carefully so we could ask some WH questions related to it. Let's take into consideration the places of work here, the title, the job titles, the moment the person started work, and how long the person has been working. So as possible answers, we could have, where does she work? And the answer will be, she works at Little Flowers Care Center. That CV is still that of Lily Evans. And how long has she been working there? She's been working there for 13 years. That was since 2008, I think. So when did she start working there? We could see that she started working there in 2008. That's what we had on the form. So this other exercise, look at part of a CV and ask and answer questions. This is still part of the CV. And then you have here, the other part was on experience. This other part is on education. Remember, it's still Lily Evans. And here we have Star Career Academy. And you have the period they started school there. So let's look, and we are able at it well, and so we should be able to frame good WH questions. I think we've observed it well, and that we can move to our questions, at least 2 questions or 3. Okay, when did she go to school? So she went to school at where did she go to school? She went to school at Star Career Academy. Where? Then the second question, which is a possible answer here, is when did she graduate? Then we see that she graduated in July 2008. It was on the form, I think, by the left-hand side. And which certificate did she have? We could actually realize that she had a certificate as a medical reimbursement specialist. So those are some of the WH questions you could ask. There are many of them that you could ask from that form. These ones are related to the place. You see where we said we use where to be able to know, answer questions about the place. You have when. We said we could use when to be able to ask questions about the time, and then you have which. You use which to know to have specific information, to have details, something very specific. For example, here it's which certificate, a specific certificate, and that specific certificate is certification as a medical reimbursement specialist. So we gradually moving to the end of our lesson, and for this lesson, this is what we have as assignment. So D, a job interviewer is conducting an interview with Bobda and the interviewee. Write a conversation in which D asks us at least 5 WH questions and Bobda produces answers. So let's take note of the fact that we're writing a conversation. A synonym to a conversation is a dialogue. It's a dialogue between Bobda and D. Remember that in this conversation, most of the questions, or the majority of the questions, or all the questions are going to be asked by D because he's the interviewer. And then you're going to write the answers, and the answers will be from Bobda. Remember that you have to write at least 5 questions. Let's take note of the number, at least 5. So for the references of this lesson, you can always click on the links you have on your screen, and you'll be able to get to many websites in which you can learn a lot about WH questions related to job interviews. There are quite many of them. Remember to click on the links and do a lot of personal research. Also, we've got our classroom textbook, the one that is used in Cameroon, which is Interactions in English, and it's a book written by a group of teachers, among which we have Dorothy Forbing. So that is actually the end of our lesson number 3. Next time we're going to have our lesson number 4. Our lesson number 4 is going to be a listening lesson. And in that listening, we're going to talk about the conditions at work.
And